Welcome back. Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know if Jesus came back?
Take a picture for $5.
You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I am your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
Dot 420.
And we have a special guest today. Notice I'm not drinking my Red Bull. I was on the way to the store to get a Red Bull, and I'm like, I can't drink an energy drink on the health episode.
I got mine.
Yeah, I'm envious.
No,
I'm tired.
Hey, no sugar though. Sugar free.
I want my caffeine.
Hey, that's better.
But yeah, today we got a special guest in the house from Instagram. She is known as Sofia Detox RN. I hope I'm getting that right. We're going to shoot it on over to her so she can tell you a little bit about herself and where our listeners can find her. Let's go.
Hi, so thanks for having me on. My name is Sofia. I'm a registered nurse. You got it right. My Instagram is sofia.detox.rn and the same thing on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, I worked on the COVID units. I experienced a lot and I had a huge spiritual awakening, and here I am, and I'm ready to share.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So I noticed on your page you are an RN, but you also do a little bit of alternative medicine, and then you got a little bit of hypnotherapy in there. You also do tarot readings. So I wanted to start to ask you, like, you just seem like someone who is spiritual. Have you always been this way, or was it something that happened along the way with the whole 2020 thing that started you off on this spiritual path, or were you like kind of spiritual and then that started to maybe look into more stuff? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so growing up, I was very religious. I was a rule follower. So at the beginning of COVID, I was working on adult general medicine units, like a bunch of 15 different units in a float pool. And sorry, what was the question?
Well, I was saying you seem like a spiritual person. Is something that happened recently that got you onto this path, or is it something that you've kind of always been on the path of?
So I was a big rule follower. 2020 happened, and I was the person that was not telling people that everybody had to get vaccinated. I was still very much about patient autonomy, because that was actually pushed down our throats in nursing school. So I was like, okay, what's happening? Slowly observing, becoming more and more anxious, and I separated myself from religion in my teens and early 20s. Kind of. I was 25, I think, in 2020 when COVID happened. 24, something like that. I'm 29 now, and so I didn't really believe in anything at the time, funny enough, and now I am one of the most spiritual people I know, and I'm so far on the other side now.
Yeah, it's funny. Sorry to cut you off real quick, but I posted a meme recently where it's I put my spiritual journey in a nutshell, and it's this guy's oh, there's God, and then he gets to the next level and he's there is no God, and then he gets to the next level and it's oh, there is God again. So I kind of feel that's kind of how we kind of all go through being a free thinker and then really finding what resonates with us, you know what I'm saying? But continue. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no worries. So I basically was looking around, adding up the pieces of the puzzle, I was already an anxious person growing up, but my anxiety was getting worse and worse. And until I was just having breakdowns at work and stuff. And that was one of the major catalysts for my spiritual awakening. And my spiritual awakening was so jarring because I was a few years ago, I had a friend who was into tarot. Okay. And she offered me a reading, and I was respectfully no, because it was just against my beliefs. I'm not a person who messes with things that I don't understand or,
Absolutely.
It's just hilarious to me that now tarot and astrology are my whole life. I integrated into everything. And after I followed you guys, actually, I saw your guys' tarot posts, and I was no way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it's all interconnected. Like I like to say, like especially like with like astrology, astrology is kind of like the code of the matrix. You know what I mean? I like to think of it like this. Like imagine like God making like a video game, and then he just puts the script like in the sky. You know what I mean? And it's like if you learn how to read that up there, you can know what's going down up here. And basically, I feel like all these systems are like maps of consciousness in our reality, and that's why they're all intertwined. I actually want to give a shout out to Amy Belair. I was on her podcast yesterday. It's coming out in February. We talked about tarot cards and how it's interwoven with like mysticism and stuff like that, and so is astrology. So I'm really glad you brought that up. But yeah, what else can you tell us about that?
Astrology. I got really passionate about astrology because I've always been kind of like a weirdo, kind of like undiagnosed autistic, like the outsider, like part of the friend group, but also like discluded half the time, like very weird. So astrology, when I looked my chart up, and I was very beginner level at that point, so I was just getting like the little, like the really important bits. And now that I go deeper, it's like even further awakening every time. But I found out that I had like a bunch of Aries placements and Cancer rising. And if you know
Okay.
anything about that, it's basically you're like super tough, super athletic, but then like a baby on the inside. And it just
Okay.
affirmed everything for me. I've always been a crybaby, but super into athletics. And like, so it's
Wow.
just been very like masculine woman, but crybaby. And that just affirmed that for me. It made
Yeah,
me
yeah,
feel
yeah.
way better about myself.
Yeah.
So I like it for that reason. And also I use it in I like all everything that I've learned. I apply it kind of like a wide lens approach
Mm-hmm.
to health and healing, almost like a safety net that like if there's something missing in somebody's health puzzle, I hopefully will cover it.
Okay.
And astrology in the sixth house is medical astrology, and you can actually look at that to kind of figure out like what type of food people should be eating and what type of exercise they should be leaning towards, and
Mm-hmm.
like so if there's things missing in people's lifestyle and like routine and health habits and stuff like that, that's a really good place to look. Yeah, and with healing trauma, that's one of the major ways also that I use astrology for like the moon sign, for example. You could look at how you manage your emotions.
Yeah.
You can look at the seventh house to see like partnerships, what type of people you attract, stuff like that. I'm really into trauma, so that's something that I'm really
I mean,
passionate about.
trauma
and
has
detox.
been a big topic on our episode, healing trauma, whether it be, you know, we talked to this person. She studied neurology basically, and she studies like brainwave patterns. And then we talked to like people who are like on psychedelics and
Yeah.
even like mystics, and they all kind of say the same
all
thing,
the
that
same, yeah.
life is really about, you know, integrating the shadow and really facing your trauma, which is really facing your demons. Like a lot of different cultures and different people call it a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, it's really facing the inner things that you need to face that are uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting that you're into that, and it's very interesting to meet like a lot of different healers, because we had a few different healers on our show, and they're all kind of from like different like backgrounds and things like that. So let's get into that. We know you're from Canada. How was it like during the world event in 2020 being in Canada? And what's up with all that? Is Trudeau still the president or whatever? Didn't he step down, but he's still there? What's going on with all that? Can you give us a little update with all that?
I'm against politics. I'm not one way or the other. I'm against politics. I'm against all of the puppets. But yeah, he was in charge at that time, if you could call it that. And then, but actually, funny enough that you bring up when the shutdown happened, because I actually wasn't even in Canada. I got stuck in
Yes.
Guatemala.
Oh, damn.
I was in like a third world country. This is actually, I'm so happy you brought this up because this is a messed up story and related to trauma. So my experience with COVID, and again, I was indoctrinated at this point, and this is what I saw was like very fear-based everything.
Yes.
And they have a very, I don't know what the word is. It's very controlled over there,
Okay.
the government and stuff. I think they like to use violence too, or at least threaten with violence.
Oh shit. That must have
And
been
we
scary.
were at a hostel. It was scary, but like good. Like I was at a hostel on the beach. Like it was good considering, but I was like, I'd rather be home. But yeah, the world got shut down on like March 14th or whatever, something like that. And I was trying to be grateful that I'm stuck in a hostel, but had no idea when I was coming home. Meanwhile, the news was like Trudeau was like, everybody come home. And we're all booking flights to come home. All the taxis and buses are shut down. Literally, the city is shut down. And I booked probably like 5 flights to come home, and I think 4 of them got canceled. And then because
Oh
COVID
my
didn't fall
God.
under the insurance, we got screwed and
Yep.
I lost thousands
Yep.
of dollars. Oh yeah, it was. And like because I was flying from
Oh
Guatemala
my
to Canada,
God.
the U.S. put out like a rule which they didn't even follow, like because some of the people that were there at the hostel flew through U.S. to get to Australia or Canada. But we were told that I'm not even allowed to have a layover in the U.S. So I was really struggling to find
And
flights.
you're the
I
rule
ended up
follower,
like,
so it was hard for you to even
oh, yeah, and we
navigate
had
that.
to, yeah, and there was a lot of fear. Every second day at the hostel, they would literally send people from the government to take our temperatures. And there was one day that I was with a group of people. One of the people in my group had like a borderline fever. And I
Oh
was trying to tell these
no.
people as a nurse, that is a borderline fever. And we're outside in 38-degree weather as Canadians. Like, isn't that going to raise our temperature?
Yep.
And so I was terrified. I swear they almost took that person away and like tried to quarantine them. Terrifying. And meanwhile, while this temperature taking was going on every second day, there was military guys with like, I'm assuming like automatic or semi-automatic weapons standing there. So
So this was very,
initiation
very
into COVID
fear-based
was
control
fear.
in a different
Oh,
country.
yeah.
Did you speak
Yeah.
the local language?
I speak minimal Spanish, like just because I like food and nutrition and stuff like that. But yeah, I was the only one. The hostel owner thankfully spoke Spanish, so when that temperature thing happened, he was like, "No, he's fine." Like, so yeah, that was terrifying. Then I finally got home, actually on my mom's birthday on March 24th,
wow.
and it was like, yeah, it was crazy. And then, also, I came home with a dislocated shoulder because I was playing beach volleyball there. And
You're like, I gotta find a way to have some kind of fun, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we were really trying to find the positive side to everything. But yeah, somebody collided into me when I was hitting the ball. I was like this, and my shoulder dislocated backwards and like went back in. And then I went on the ground and there was actually a pediatrician there, a doctor, and she told me it was a sprain. And then I come home and they were like, no, you definitely dislocated it. So yeah. And then I immediately started working on the COVID units and didn't go to physio because because the hospital needed me. I don't know.
Oh my God. So what was it like coming back home to work on the COVID units? Do you have any crazy stories about all that? I think you mentioned, were you on a ventilator machine?
Me?
Yeah.
Or my patients?
Oh, that's right. Was it your patients?
Yeah, I was
wow.
I never tested positive for COVID.
I never tested for COVID.
Good,
Yeah.
because those things.
They actually have it.
Were you an essential worker?
I was an essential worker.
Yeah, I never stopped working.
I never stopped working. I was out, and then the cops would be staring at you because I work overnight. So I'm coming home at 3 in the morning, and they're flashing lights at me, and I'm like, "What world is this? This is crazy."
For real.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite part of COVID was driving to the hospital every day and there being no traffic.
Oh yeah, traffic was great.
Hospital.
And the skies are all clear. There's no smog above Los Angeles.
Yep.
You know, you could see the Hollywood sign from PV.
Really?
You know?
Yeah, it was different. It was different for like a good 6 months.
It was cool, but it was weird. And the funny thing was, when we came back, my homies, shout out Split Vision, this reggae band, they had a show and I went and everyone was there and it had been like a year or something like that. And I'm just like, doesn't this feel fucking weird that we're all back out and everyone was just like chilling, like it's nothing. And I'm like, yo, like that was weird. That was fucking weird. And I know everyone knew it, but I was like, like, can we talk about it? Can we say something about how weird that was?
We think about it deeper than other people. That's the only thing.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that prompted us to start this show. So we're about like 10, 12 minutes in or something like that. I know you had a vaccine injury. So let's talk about how it was when you came back from Guatemala. You're in this weird fear-controlled base place, and you go from that to Canada, which is, kind of the same thing, a little different. Can you tell us how it was working in the COVID units as a nurse during that time?
Yeah. So originally I was a casual nurse, and what actually happened was I couldn't even apply for, I don't know if it's called the same thing in America. We had CERB, CERB, which was like the the COVID payments, like if you weren't able to work or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what you guys,
we
guys
had
that,
we had some. It was
There was something out there. I don't know what
it was the
Yeah.
PPP stuff, the business
Oh.
loans.
No,
People
but-
had like business loans,
yeah.
and then people also had because they weren't working, they were getting checks.
They're getting unemployment.
Yeah. Unemployment, yeah.
So basically, because I was a casual, I had a job, but I wasn't able to get any work because I would schedule myself like 8 days in a row, and more than half of them would get canceled. And then I'd be left with a 4-hour shift for 1 week. So how the fuck am I supposed to pay my rent when I'm not even allowed to apply for this unemployment thing? And I was really struggling to pay rent, and I lost several $1,000s on those flights. And what else? So the job that I started out with, actually, I got like a door screening job at the front of the hospital, which was basically like, you ask people questions: have they traveled? Do they have symptoms? Blah, blah, blah. You give them a new mask. And that was actually I'll share one story that was very traumatizing about that. And I feel bad because I froze and didn't know what to do in this situation. I'm normally a pretty compassionate person, but I'm very emotional. So I don't like to be emotional around people that are having a tough time. So it was me and this one other nurse, and I loved night shifts at the time. Now I could never, I don't think, because it's so hard on my body. But I was working a lot of night shifts, and I loved that because I would just read, and a lot of people aren't coming into the hospital at night. And there was the main job that you had at night was pretty depressing. It was basically allowing people in and calling up to the ICU or wherever the patient is that they're visiting. And the reason they're visiting is usually because they got the phone call that they're passing away.
Oh, no.
So I would have to call, and the rules were different for every unit and for every doctor. Some doctors decided there's 5 people allowed to visit. Some doctors decided there's 10 because the family is big or whatever. Some doctors said only immediate family. So what happened in this situation, and it was evil. I wish I did something, honestly, but I was shocked and like very emotional. This family came in to visit their a woman that was in the ICU. She sounded like she was pretty young. So it sounded like a very I don't know, emotional and sad situation. And the people that came in to visit her to say goodbye were, I think it was her dad, her mom, her sister, and then there was one other man who was actually her uncle, I think. And we had to say no to her uncle and let everybody else in.
Damn.
And I cannot, it's so
That's a
hard for me to
bummer.
tell this story and not cry because I was just sitting there trying not to cry. And I'm at these tables basically facing the lobby in the hospital. So he had to go sit on the bench in the lobby and started crying. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. The healthcare aide or other nurse who was working with me, she ended up sitting with him and talking to him. That was one of the most heartbreaking things about COVID for me, that he didn't get to say goodbye to his loved one.
Oh, no.
And I didn't do anything about it. That sucks. But yeah, that was not even working on the COVID units. So
That's a bummer. So let me ask you this, because you were working in the COVID units, and to us, when we're at home with the news, well, I was working, but when we're watching the news and getting all the updates and stuff, they're like, we got to make sure the hospitals aren't overcrowded and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people were saying, man, the hospital down the street I work, there ain't nobody coming in. There's 20 people. They got this whole floor for COVID units. Like, there's a few people in there, but there's not a lot. So we got the idea that they had this fear and panic just shooting through the news system at us and stuff like that, when in reality, it wasn't really that bad. So let me ask you this. Was it kind of chaotic in the units when you were working, or would you kind of say the picture was blown out of proportion on the news as opposed to what was really going on at the hospital?
I would say something that I noticed was that I basically was working as a registered nurse for about a year before the shutdown happened. I was just gaining confidence and gaining my footing in the job. What I noticed in that first year was I would come home after my shift and cry. Maybe often, maybe sometimes. It was pretty stressful. And I would often miss my breaks. I would often have a 12-hour shift and have no breaks, and my eye would be twitching by the end of the shift. So that was before COVID. And then COVID happened. It was very slow for the first few months. like I said, like I was a casual trying to pick up jobs on units, and there was no jobs for me to pick up because there were like, and at that point, people weren't like, nurses weren't really getting sick at that point. At least that's from what I remember. It was maybe like 6 months, 10 months. Once the shot rolled out, people started getting sick because of the shedding. Because what I noticed about myself was I was like constantly sick, but I would go get tested because I would actually like interact with COVID patients sometimes by accident. I would get a call and be like, "Oh, you have to isolate for 2 weeks," or whatever it was.
What?
And every time I tested, I was negative. But I would have sniffles constantly. And like, I personally think now that it was because of the shedding, because everybody around me was getting vaccinated before me. I was hesitant at first. And
when you mean by shedding, are you saying you're picking up symptoms from the vaccine without being vaccinated?
Yeah. So the spike proteins are a problem in the vaccines. Basically, the spike proteins are just causing chaos and wreaking havoc in everybody's bodies. And basically what they were saying when the vaccines first came out was, oh, these spike proteins only stay in the body for 48 to 72 hours. Don't worry about it. And that's why people were having reactions. I think that was their explanation. Well, about when was this? In the spring, a study came out that said that these spike proteins are actually staying in the body for longer than 700 days or whatever. They found something ridiculous. They're forever in the body, and they replicate, and they like mess with your DNA basically. So yeah, so detoxing continuously is important. There's spike protein protocols. One thing I will say is don't go for the wellness company, please.
We heard about that place. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that.
There's a lot of holistic things that have these like detox protocols. I don't trust anything that is like a big company. That's why I was
Seven Seas talks about that. We had a conversation. Shout out to 6G Agenda and Seven Seas. Seven Seas talks about how there's a bunch of shady stuff with the wellness company, I think. So before we get into like the whole detox thing and stuff like that, you mentioned, I wanted to talk about your vaccine injury. When you got vaccinated, was it because of a mandate, or did you feel like you had a personal choice in the matter at all? Because me, I was just like to the death, like I'm not getting this fucking vaccine.
I was willing to lose my job. I really was.
Yeah. Yes.
I was not gonna get it. Yeah.
And I know it was kind of rough over there with like kind of like the guidelines or the stuff they tried to implement. So can you tell us what that was like? Did you feel like you were forced to take the jab?
I felt like I was cornered, and I felt like I didn't have a lot of like a sense of self at the time. So I was very confused, and I was like a obligatory person, like, oh, if I do this, it will be good for everybody. Like, kind of the
that's
way
how
that
they
I
were
was
shaming everyone into do it, like with like the empathy role. Yeah.
How evil is that, right? Taking advantage of people who have empathy. Same thing with nurses. We've all been like funneled into like smart people. Like it's a high average to get into nursing school, and they funnel these intelligent people into these roles that are just totally indoctrinated and then used for the system. Like,
and they're using people's compassion against us. You know what I mean? Like people are like virtue signaling, like, you know, you're fucking it up for everybody because you want to be this and you want to be that. Meanwhile, Newsom is having dinner parties while they're telling us we can't have fucking Thanksgiving with more than 6 people. You know?
And then you see clips of like politicians making announcements, and then you see the unedited clip of everybody not wearing masks and standing next to each other.
AOC, it's a photo opportunity. Let's put our masks on. That is crazy, bro. That was insane. Okay, so
so COVID vaccine injury. So I was working on the COVID units, lots of crazy stuff happening, and my decision was basically, I actually had a family member that was like, oh, you should just get it. And like, I didn't have a very strong sense of self, like I said. So I just, went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And I got my first one in April. I got my second one in June. And then I went on vacation in July or August, and I never went back to work after that. It was like it was a very sudden, like, I'm not okay. And I like was not doing okay for a while mentally. Like I was having panic attacks before work and stuff like that before I got vaccinated.
Yeah.
But again, that was when everybody was shedding. So maybe that was a factor. I don't know.
It's funny you say that a family member told you to get it, because I'm kind of having an epiphany right now where it's like COVID introduced hold everyone accountable for this thing that we're trying to do. And ever since 2020, that's kind of how every other political issue has been, like times 10. Because before that, like we'd argue, people to get into it about stuff and stuff like that, but it wouldn't be as ramped up as it is now. And I feel like at COVID, it was like, like hold everyone accountable, like like
everybody.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was working on the COVID units and everything was really confusing. I was getting really sick. Now looking back, what I think the vaccines did is basically like create problems or like make the problems way bigger that were already existing. And funny enough, I was like at my unhealthiest I had ever been at that point working on the COVID units. I was like a little overweight. I was on some medications. I think I was on like an antidepressant, maybe ADHD meds or something. The ADHD meds were not good for my kidneys looking back now. Very bad. Like I was not drinking. All food tasted like cardboard. So I was like not eating well at all. And not to mention, we weren't even allowed to drink water on the COVID unit. So for 12 hours straight, I was in PPE that was making me sweat.
That's insane.
No, that has to be some
like
sort of lawsuit.
barely able to breathe.
That's
and
crazy.
Like some people still like hid like a cup of water in like a room on the unit, but it was technically not allowed.
That's crazy.
And like, why did I get a kidney injury from the vaccine? Probably from that, and probably from other factors like the medications and stuff that cause problems, and also parasites. Because when I did my parasite detox, I had, so they came out of my kidneys.
So you are a detox. You're like a health coach. You help people get rid of parasites in their gut and stuff like that. When you had parasites, do you feel like it was something that came from whatever you're eating or whatever you're doing, and then COVID made it worse? Or do you feel like the shot had a lot to do with the parasites? Can you get into all that kind of stuff?
I think that the shot definitely contributed because it has some very evil ingredients in it, is what I will say.
Okay.
There was a lot of factors, but also it's important for people to know that, like, in my opinion, 100% of humans have parasites. Vets are taught to deworm all mammals. Humans are mammals. Why don't we deworm ourselves? Mm-hmm. Like 100 years ago, when everybody was farming, like farmers would deworm their animals and deworm themselves at the same time. So that practice just got lost. And there's things like liver flukes, which is a type of parasite that, in my opinion, like everybody has. They can survive decades in the body, and they can pass through the placenta. So literally generational trauma, in my opinion, is parasites. Wow. At least, like, maybe not 100% of the time, but it's one of the factors. Because, like, when you think about, like, the way that somebody acts and, like, you're passing down the way that you act to your child and then you create trauma, whatever, the parasites influence the way that you think, the way that you act. Here's a good example. When I was on my parasite detox, there was a moment of like individuation where I was like, oh my God, those thoughts were never my own. I was sitting somewhere and I was like fasting. I was on a really intense cleanse. Like, I think I was like doing paleo fasting, like really disciplined. And at one point I was sitting on the couch. I was feeling totally fine that day. And then I sat down and my mouth started salivating like crazy. And I just heard these thoughts in my head going, eggs. And I know that parasites love eggs. You have to eliminate eggs on a parasite detox because they thrive on them. And I was like individuated from this thought, and I was like, that's not my thought. Like, what the fuck? And I had many of those. It was like figuring out. So like I mentioned before, I kind of had like lifelong anxiety. I was just always an anxious person growing up. Anxiety gone, like not 100%. I still have anxiety because I have like psychic isms and stuff. Like anxiety tells you things.
And do you have a meditation practice at all? Do you meditate?
I do like ADHD type meditation,
Okay.
like doing the dishes at the same time, or like walking meditation. I'm very bad at sitting still, but that's actually, hypnosis is like a tool, in my opinion.
That's right.
Sitting still meditation. So yeah, so I did that course, hypnotherapy course. I'll shout out Jonathan Robinson. He was on here 2 weeks ago.
Shout out
Journeys
Jonathan.
into Past Lives.
Journeys into Past Lives. Yeah. That was a great episode. So hit up Sofia. She just started hypnotherapy. I think she has a special on some of what she's doing right now, right?
Yeah, I've got a discounted rate until I'm completely certified. And then, so I do a discounted rate, and I'm also doing packages. I don't know if anybody does this yet. I'm just kind of like experimenting. I'm doing a package where it's like an assessment, a Parasite Detox protocol, and you get hypnotherapy. And I'm going to start playing with like hypnotizing the parasites out of us. And like the like normal way to use hypnotherapy with this would maybe be to like solidify the habits and stuff, because the hard part of parasite detoxing is like the mentality and the focus and discipline, because the parasites really do influence your thoughts. But
that's what I was gonna say.
Well, I mean, they say your gut is your second brain, right? So if you got parasites in your gut, you know what I mean? Your intuition is gonna be off.
Todd, spot on today. You know what I'm saying? Killing it. Hell yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, if the parasites are talking to you, might as well try to talk back to them through hypnotherapy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Yeah, that, and also speaking of talking back to them, I would actually like yell at them. And like, so I'm really into like EDM music. I listen to some like hard like dubstep and stuff, and I was listening to this song. I'm trying to remember what the lyrics are. It said something about like, I don't like to listen to songs that say like kill or devil or anything like that. Like I tried not to do that, but there's a song that was talking about like something, and then you're dead or something like that. And I was just like singing the song to them and dancing. I can't even describe. I highly recommend this for people, by the way. I was like in poverty when I was like doing this detox stuff. And so I have a lot of like free ways to detox. So play EDM music and thrash around. Like that was like one of the best ways. I could literally feel spirit like moving along my body. Like I was getting chills, and then I would like have a big release that day, and I'd feel way better. So yeah, it's
funny you say that, like talking to him, because like there's this guy on the internet, I follow him, and he does videos, and he's like, that one tapeworm in your stomach at 3 a.m. and he's like, hey, sup dog, it's 3 a.m, let's get a snack, let's drink some soda, you know what I'm saying? What's going on? You know, and it's like so funny that like it's almost like they control you, you know, because they're within your body and they're influencing what you want. You know what I mean? So can you talk a little bit about your detox program, what it is? Let's say someone had wanted to take your program, wanted to detox. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's like?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the middle of restructuring right now. So if anybody wanted to reach out and do, what I'm starting to do now is a group program, because I think like I did this completely by myself, and I think the one thing that's really, well, there's lots of important things, but like being connected with people and kind of like talking to them about what's going on is really important, I think. Basically I just started this doing like one-on-one sessions with people, and then they just check back every couple weeks or whatever. I've had a few clients do protocols with me from last spring until now. And they've been very successful. I have one client who, like, I don't even know how much weight she's lost, but like weight loss wasn't even a goal for her. And she has just been like shedding just by like adjusting her. So I'll just say like some of the teaching that I provide, like usually the first like 3 to 4 weeks is nutrition, depending on where your nutrition is at. Like I meet my clients where they are. So sometimes it's a longer process if people need a little bit more education on that kind of stuff. Like more proteins and healthy fats, crowding out your diet so that you're craving the sugar and carbs less, which is what they really thrive on. So that when you do cut those things out, eventually it's not like total torture on you. It's still hard, but so it's a very, like my programs aren't very quick, because I recognize that this is like a long term thing.
So it's very gradual.
You can do a 30-day one and done, but in my opinion, it works better if you approach it as like a lifestyle change. Because like if you do a Parasite Detox and then you're eating Jolly Ranchers the next day, like
you're a lot less likely to relapse if you do it gradually.
Exactly. They're just going to start laying eggs like crazy. So,
let me ask you this, because I have a very addictive personality and I go through like my sweet tooth bouts where I'm just eating like sugar every day. Do you feel like this is kind of like an addiction problem? Because what I started to ask myself was, why do I want to eat this? Do I really want this snack? Do I really need something in my stomach right now? Or do I want to eat this to feel good? And once I started looking at it like that, I was like, oh shit, like I'm managing an addiction right now. So would you agree with that? And if you do, can you expand on it?
I think that you just showed that your voice is separate from the action, right? You're literally questioning yourself and what you're doing. So that action, I don't think is really a part of you. I personally, and like everybody's different. There's lots of factors that can influence behaviors and like addictive patterns. But I think there's probably some kind of underlying trauma. Like usually eating is like a comfort thing.
It's a
like
fulfillment.
If somebody's feeling uncomfortable. Like I just had this realization a couple years ago, like, because food became so like, I don't even know how to say it. Food just became like practical for me over the past 2 years. I wasn't really craving anything.
Yeah.
I know that when I crave refined sugar, I got to do another Parasite Detox. So yeah, I never crave refined sugar until I have like a couple other.
I think I might got to try your program, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm waking up in the middle of the night, 12 a.m., 2 a.m., walking to the fridge and getting some soda, eating some gummy bears.
I think I'm addicted to ice cream.
He is.
That was me during COVID.
I love ice
would
cream.
literally, it was bad. I would like skip the dishes or whatever. I don't know if you guys have that one from like the grocery or the gas station to get a bunch of gummy bears or whatever. Like that was bad. I was very addicted. And I like now it's like a self-sabotage thing almost. When I do recognize that it happens, I'm like, okay, that wasn't me. It's because something stressful happened this week, and that's like my comfort thing for whatever reason. And so you'll notice like I've been very like on the move. Like I've moved 14 times in 8 years. It's been very stressful. And
good Lord, like, I hate moving.
Insane.
I hate moving.
And I'm still somewhere temporary now. So I'm just like getting rid of all my stuff. And then who knows, maybe I'll become a nomad or something.
Well, let's talk about your spiritual awakening. Did your spiritual awakening happen in coordination with your vaccine injury? Was that something totally different? Was it like a spontaneous Kundalini awakening? Was it kind of like a near-death experience kind of thing? Anything psychedelic, anything crazy happened to you? Because I know you had some experiences that we're also going to talk about, but can you tell us a little about your spiritual awakening?
Yeah, it was a wild one. It was like here's what it is and you can't deny it. That's why I totally flipped sides and like, I don't know. So it kind of started, like I told you guys, I was having panic attacks before shifts. That was even before I was vaccinated. And then I had the vaccine and it was making everything worse, like just constant panic attacks, couldn't think. The brain fog was ridiculous. Like when I talk about my chronic illness or whatever that I have now, it's basically like when I feel depleted or when I feel stressed, I get brain fog and can't think. And chronic fatigue is like, my body just like shuts down. I have to take way more rest than I used to. So both of those were really bad at first. Like I couldn't even cook. I couldn't do anything at times. And there were times like, I think my story might be confusing to some people that knew me at the time because I was functional at times and then I'd be non-functional for like 6 months. And then I'd get a job and I'd be fine. This is not in the hospital. I'd get a job somewhere else in a restaurant or whatever. And then I'd be non-functional again for a few months. And so, and then over the past couple of years, it was like my worst bout of chronic illness, but that was all trauma related. So I think also, like I was saying, like whatever was already going wrong in the body, the vaccine made it worse. Mm-hmm. Trauma also makes all of these effects way worse. Wow. And I basically got bombarded with like my spiritual awakening was like trauma, and then figure it out. And then, just when you think you're done, trauma.
Same with me.
Yeah.
When 2020 started, like my best friend and roommate passed away right when the shutdowns went down. So I was forced to move out during the pandemic, find a new place to live, live by myself. My girlfriend left me. It was just like a just all this
It was a dark night of the soul, yeah.
And then I was living by myself,
sure.
so I'm just sitting in just this weird place.
Yeah.
But psychedelics took me out of that, and that's what was my awakening, really.
Yeah. Damn.
Yep.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
remember that
so-
year. I was going through.
I would just talk.
Too.
I would just talk
Yeah.
to him because he's the only person I thought would be like, all right, he's not crazy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I would
same.
talk about some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so it kind of started with the health stuff for me, like mental health stuff too. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I had some people in my life that were like, I had a nurse friend actually at the time that was refusing it and was very adamant about it. And I was respectful of her choices, but I wasn't fully understanding her perspective yet. So I can tell looking back now, she was very nice about it. She was like, well, like, because my thoughts were, well, what if everybody got it? Maybe we'd be fine. Like, I'm not trying to force people, but I'm just thinking of the what ifs. And she was like, well, what if nothing happens? Then like, what's the point? And so anyways, she kind of put some questions in my brain. She helped me start researching. And this was after I was vaccinated. So she was like, are you worried about the fact that you got vaccinated? I just blocked that out. And I was like, whatever, I'll deal with it when I deal with it. And I didn't fully understand what was happening. My illness was like very slow rising. And again, like with traumas, it would just get worse and worse. So I think a lot of people have problems from the vaccine, but don't know it because it's been very slow and progressive onset. And also it like changes personalities. And I think the brain fog that I had, like, I think other people have brain fog too, and it's
people have brain fog their whole fucking life.
I just think
They need alpha brain.
It's a dire situation, the intelligence situation in society, and it only got worse after that. And that the studies are showing that too. If you look at the McCullough Foundation, they're releasing a lot of studies about all of this stuff. You should check it out. But yeah, so I got sick. My spiritual awakening was basically my doctor had me on like 7 medications, and I was like, she was about to put me on an 8th one, and I was like, okay, I don't know an adverse effect from a symptom, so like I'm just gonna reset, take myself off everything, and then we can restart. You know what she said to me? No.
Wow.
I was like, excuse me? So then I was like, okay, I guess I'm not talking to you anymore. So I'm a nurse. I know how to, like, I was on antidepressants, sleeping aid, an ADHD med, and some hormonal medications. Like, it was messed up. Like, I let her do what she wanted because I believed in the system at that point. And then I was like, no, I'm going to take myself off everything. 90% of my symptoms disappeared when I took myself off of my medications. And then I started doing a shitload of research, and I found out that the placebo effect is more effective than antidepressants at treating depression.
Wow.
So why are they called that? Oh, okay. So then I went through like every rabbit hole ever and figured out, well, if there's corruption here, where else is it? And follow the money. And yeah, so I traumatized myself, and then I traumatized myself, and then I was detoxing myself. I started doing liver detox, which helped a lot with a lot of the things that I had. I had lifelong endometriosis that I cured. Well, cured with, people don't like that word, but I alleviated my lifelong debilitating endometriosis with a liver and parasite detox and nutrition changes.
Wow.
And people don't believe me. Like, it's wild. But so stuff like that. I had like my first cycle where I could actually function and I wasn't like on the ground dying. And like as an athlete, that was amazing. I could actually function and think. So yeah, so it was like awakening after awakening, but also traumatizing myself in the process of like, what the hell did I just go to? Why did I spend $50,000 on a degree? Like, for what?
Yeah.
So I was angry too. And yeah, so then what happened? I was taking myself off of those medications. This is kind of a gross, kind of a funny story, but it was my introduction to parasites, and I was gaslighting myself at the time, but I took myself I was weaning off of antidepressants, and then finally I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I cut it off and went cold turkey, and I was playing with psilocybin at the time, and it was very helpful.
Yep.
And
Yes.
it helped detox me. It helps with detox if you use it properly. And it also helped me gain a lot of knowledge that was like this inner knowing knowledge that was already
Yes,
there. Don't know
yes.
where it's coming from, somewhere in the ether, you know. But
Yeah.
it I noticed that I started like just making these like potions almost like after a night of doing mushrooms. And then I would just put like peppermint and ginger and turmeric and apple cider vinegar and tea and stuff and drink it. And I was so nauseous all the time at this point in my life for like about a year. And that like helped me. So I was like, where is this even coming from?
Wow.
And in that process, I also detoxed a worm out of me. And I gaslit myself because I had no idea that people had parasites, but I took a picture of it and I was like, that's not what that is, but like maybe, I don't know. And then, so that was like my initiation into, and I was seeing like third eye visions of
Right.
parasites at this time. Like I was having like a
Wow.
psychic awakening. Like I went crazy basically because I was seeing demons, like things that are attached to people, and like I became so traumatized by what I was seeing, I had to like turn it off. Like I like had to disconnect myself because I didn't know how to protect myself, didn't know how to stop it. But yeah, so
Do you feel
my
like
spiritual
when
awakening was
you
whack.
started cleaning up your system and doing the cleanses and stuff like that, that you kind of opened up your psychic channels?
I think so.
Wow.
I think I've always been a weirdo and I've always had like weird things in my head. And I've always been just like smart, but I think it's intuition that I didn't really understand.
Hmm.
And I think my lifelong anxiety was my entire body screaming at me that I was filled with parasites. I think that's what that was. I think people with
Wow.
generalized anxiety disorder really need to look at parasites. So, yeah.
Wow. So you also kind of feel like the anxiety was kind of hand in hand with the parasites. And when you cleanse the parasites, you kind of also were a lot less anxious as well.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, there was kind of like this intertangling of self. Like I didn't know who I was. And then once I
Hmm.
started cleansing, it was like, oh, those thoughts weren't my own. Those intrusive thoughts telling me to go like this on the highway, not
Yeah.
me.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No.
So it's also a form of
So,
meditation because meditation is also teaching you to release your thoughts and become the observer of them. You know what I mean? Observe your thoughts instead of being your
mhm,
thoughts. You know, I think a lot of people are stuck in the physical realm because we're taught that whatever we're hand in hand with our thoughts and stuff like this is just what we are. This meat suit and whatever our thoughts are and whatever we're feeling is us. You know what I mean? And in the
yeah.
East, especially a lot of the mystic traditions teach you to release yourself from that and try to release yourself from the constraints of reality so you can transcend it. So it's crazy that you're saying that that detoxing is is helping you with anxiety. Let me ask you this: is when you're talking about detoxing the parasites and stuff like that, is it mostly like a diet thing?
It's the diet is really important
Hmm.
because really like, and some people even argue about this, like people that do parasite protocols and whatever, they'll say it's actually not about killing the parasites, it's about their environment and it's about
Hmm.
creating an alkaline gut basically, which
Yeah.
is like what the baseline should be. As soon as our gut and bodies become acidic is when it attracts parasites and stuff like that, but it's hard to know what the real root cause is. I think it's all interwoven. Like I call myself a root cause practitioner and I do root cause wellness, but I don't even really believe in root causes anymore. I think there's like 5+ factors that influence things, like the way you grow up, the habits that you pick up from your parents,
Yeah.
for example, the
Yeah.
parasites that you pick up from your parents, the whatever. Like there's so many things influencing us, nutrition, people at school, all of these things contribute to this. And sorry, I forgot what I was
No,
saying.
it's funny that you say the thing about like generational parasites because we're trained to think that, I grew up liking the things my mom likes to eat because I'm around what she likes to eat and that's what she feeds us because that's what she likes to eat. But if we have these parasites in our bodies that are kind of affecting the things that we crave and stuff like that because that's what they thrive on, then that could be definitely a different reason as to why we crave the things that we do.
For sure. But yeah, so it's some people argue that it's about killing the parasites, and some people say that it's about the environment. I think it's both, honestly, because you can create an inhospitable environment for these things, but I personally think these things there are some natural parasites, but I think there's a bunch of them that have basically been like man-made and GMO'd and are way worse than they would usually be. And I think there's been a ton of intense traumas inflicted upon us in the past 6 years and forever before that, but especially the past 6 years. And that keeps our guts and everything in a state of fight or flight, which keeps the parasites in us, helps them proliferate and like just like keep growing and keep reproducing. And yeah, so there's so many different factors, but yeah, I do parasite cleanses, and it really is important to the nutrition factor for sure.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of different alternative medicine people, those two different things, that your gut health is number one, very, very important, and influences a lot about how you feel and your body and stuff like that. And also alkaline diet, and that a lot of our diseases thrive on an acidic diet. Which is what they feed to us in society, you know what I mean? Especially like all the processed foods and stuff like that. Did you eat a lot of processed foods, microwavable burritos, chips, and stuff like that before you when you had this whole journey of being like in health and stuff like that?
I definitely, with stress, I would eat more. And that's actually something with astrology I figured out, is people with cancer placements lots of times eat more when they're stressed, and Taurus too, actually. Wow. So I was like, as a Cancer rising, that made a lot of sense. Sorry, what was the question?
Oh, I don't even remember the question.
I'm just anyways, fogging out right now.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We're almost at the end of the interview. Do you have any, you mentioned mushrooms, psilocybin. Do you have any psychedelic experiences you want to share with us? Maybe any kind of profound trips where you discovered yourself, or maybe you were talking to a poster of Jesus on the wall or anything like that?
Okay, let me think. Honestly, most of them have been scary. But the coolest thing I've experienced, or one of the coolest things I've experienced, was I would do this thing because I'm an intense person with a lady with a ton of Aries placements. I like rip the Band-Aid off. I go all in or nothing. Yeah. So I tried 1 gram a couple times, and I was like, okay. So then I did 5 by myself in my house.
Yep.
And heroic dose.
Smoked like 2 or 3 joints like in a row and sat outside. The cannabis like amplifies it for me. For other people, I don't know, but for me, yeah. I would just sit outside in my lawn chair and look at the stars, and I kid you not, I saw the Earth's like energetic grid.
Yeah.
And like, like Capricorn is a goat, Aries is a ram. Like, yeah. I would see all of those like drawn in the sky, and it was like red and purple and so beautiful. It was like, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So that was like another layer of awakening of like, if I'm seeing this, then like, what really is this place? Yeah. And like, I also, after major like heroic doses like that, now I like, when I look at a flame, I have a candle next to me here. When I look at a flame, I can see a rainbow aura around a flame now. And I remember asking people like, can you see that? No. Oh, okay. So then, and now I look at the stars outside. I don't see a star. I see a ball of light that's flashing at me in multiple different colors. They're not white. And they have a rainbow aura as well around them. So
yeah. So you definitely unlocked something in your third eye, something like that. You definitely unlocked something when you're doing these detoxes. Wow, that's super interesting. And you said that you had kind of these perceptions of seeing parasites and stuff like that on people when you had your awakening as well, and you had to turn it off. Can you tell us about what that was like? How'd you turn it off?
There was a couple times that I got overwhelmed, and I basically disconnected myself from source by turning it off, which is not good, but I was terrified. So
you had to ground yourself.
I basically it was, I basically just set the intention of my head, like, nope, no more of this, please, like, turn it off, make it go away. And the reason I did that was actually because I was in a really bad relationship. I moved somewhere from my hometown. I lived there my whole life. Moved for this person, moved into their apartment. First of all, it was filled with mold. Oh. Second of all, there was just a bunch of unhealthy things going on. And I would be in the bathroom, which was like very mold filled. And I was washing my hair. I was in the shower. And in me closing my eyes and like the water, whatever, like you don't want to get water in your eyes. In that like span of 10 seconds, what I saw in the blackness of my eyes was basically like it was all black, but there was a wall, and then it was like there was a demon peeking out from behind the wall looking at me. It was terrifying. And then, you know what I did? And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep my eyes open because that's terrifying. It was like, that's probably the scariest thing I've ever encountered. And then in the span of time that I blinked, you know what it did? It came out from the wall and went right in front of my face and was like, scared me. And I was like, no, like, can't even blink, can't even exist, can't like do anything.
Hey, I would have boop-bopped them so fast. What? Hell no. I'm in the shower, bro. What you doing?
I would have fell in the shower.
What kind of shit is you on, bro?
Yeah. It was in my mind's eye, basically, like in my head. And I like, my beliefs at the time was that it was real. Like that would still be scary if you thought it was a delusion, but I knew it was real. So I was like, where? Why is it here? Why is it coming after me? And so then I basically like turned myself off from spirit because my like psychicness was just too scary at that point. I didn't know how to control it.
And do you feel like there's ways?
That's what schizophrenia is, because I think schizophrenia is people that have access to other realms and dimensions, and they are just ungrounded.
They don't have the discernment to know what's real and what's not. That's what made me think about that when you were talking about that. When you're doing, do you do any intuitive work? Like, do you do any? I know you said you're kind of psychic. Do you kind of use that in any of your practices at all?
I do. I use the tarot a lot in my work, actually. I'll just like whip it out if I'm ever like, what should we do next? Or if, like, for example, my client kind of came to an impasse of like, what should I do next in the cleanse? Should I keep going or should I take a break and then start again in a week? I'll just ask tarot. I'll ask cards, and then sometimes they'll predict. I will pull some cards before we start a big protocol or before we start working together and stuff like that. And one of the readings that I did for one client who was doing a detox was like, it was kind of confusing. I was like, it looks like you're gonna run into a problem in about like 3 or 4 weeks, but like don't worry, it'll be okay, because like the last card was a positive one. And I was like, I'm not sure what it's gonna be, but it'll be like a slow building problem. And it ended up being like, oh, the dehydration is a problem. Oh, wow. Let's really work on that, because that's a problem with detoxing. So yeah, we were trying to figure out why she was so dehydrated, even though she was drinking like 4 liters of tea every day. So yeah, but we figured it out, and it was in her knowing. She's like, oh, should I quit this habit? And I was like, that's probably it. So and my clients are very intuitive as well. I keep attracting people who they don't usually share with me right away, but a few calls in, they'll be like, by the way, like I'm really into like tarot and like deep, dark, scary stuff like you are, like demons and stuff like that. So I attract people like that for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, your vibe is your tribe, and it seems like you're attracting the people who are kind of like thinkers like you. I know you kind of mentioned over Instagram that you don't really feel like you have many friends and stuff like that. So it's cool that you're actually attracting clients and people who are like-minded like you, so you don't have to be around people who don't disagree with you as much, because I know that could be uncomfortable. So I think we're just about at the end of the interview. What would you say to someone who is like a young nurse, kind of like you were, and they're kind of just like, I kind of don't know. I don't like, the Western medicine kind of structure. I kind of want to get into alternative medicine. What would be your first piece of advice for a young person like that?
Follow whatever makes you passionate, because I created my own job, and I tell people that like, it's really hard. It's really not. Well, maybe people think it's not for everyone. I think some people are more like made for this than others. I think everybody can be an entrepreneur though, but like that's just general life advice though. Follow what makes you passionate, because that's what's going to make you happy in life. Like just a couple of days ago, I was talking to a friend and I was like, why am I having so much anxiety? Like I just need to do this thing. And it was actually, I need to not do that thing and I need to do something else. So like it's very like, just pave your own way. This is the first time I've ever loved what I do. I hated working on the COVID units. I hated like, it was about following rules, and it was about being a number there too. And it's actually, you mentioned that you had a death before COVID or at the beginning of COVID. That was like initiation for me. I had a family member pass away actually
I'm sorry.
on a hospital unit that I worked on. And then I called my staffing and told them, hey, please stop scheduling me on this unit. And they didn't care, and they kept scheduling me there.
Damn.
And so I couldn't even grieve in peace. Like, so that's why, like, anybody who reads my story or sees me talking about what I do online, like, don't criticize your employer. They're just whatever. Like, don't defend the employer. They don't care about you.
Right.
You are just a number.
Yeah.
I reached out to them so many times, explaining to them my situation, and did they even care to fix it? No, they kept traumatizing me over and over again. And looking back now, that was a huge reason why my vaccine injury was so significantly horrible, I think, because like grief and trauma, when your body is in a state of inflammation and fight or flight, are you going to be able to fight off things that are like creating more problems? No.
Yeah.
So yeah, I blame my employer. I blame myself too for letting myself get like stomped on and like that, but yeah, it was exhausting. I'm happy.
Hey, sometimes that's what you got to go through in order to get to where you're at.
You have
now.
to learn it the hard way sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of better that way sometimes.
And it seems like you're in a great place now. And like you said, you never loved what you did before. You love what you do now. You went through, it sounds like you spent a lot of money being stuck in Guatemala and going through all that COVID kind of stuff. So we're really glad you're okay now. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, follow her at Sofia.Detox.RN. Am I right? Is that the... Yeah. Okay, so
take
follow
advantage
her
of her deals right now.
Follow her on Instagram. Take advantage of her deal. She's doing cleanses. She's helping you cleanse, and she's also doing hypnotherapy and stuff like that. Talk to those parasites. Get them out of there. You know what I'm saying? So thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to leave to our listeners while we sign off right now?
I just want to say that you can book a free intro call if you want to work together, or even if you just want to connect. Cool. I'm always open to talking to like-minded people, but yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on. And I like to educate and connect with anybody who wants to talk about this stuff.
Absolutely. She took us back to COVID in Canada and Guatemala. She is doing health now, removing parasites, helping you guys stay healthy. Check her out, Sofia.Detox.RN. This has been another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening, like, subscribe, all that. Check her out. And once again, thank you. This has been another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I am your host and creator, Steve-O Free. This is the other host and creator,
Dot 420.
And we out.